In two different courses that I've recently conducted, I had different students list in the backlog things that they wanted to learn about. And one of the topics that came up twice in a row for two different classes was about RACI. So for me, I am not a fan of RACI, in case you haven't figured that out. So, in case you don't know what RACI is, R stands for responsible, A stands for accountable, C is consulted, and I is informed. If I were to ask you to name a single artifact which absolutely identifies a Theory X culture, what would you say? Let me back up a minute to make sure we're on the same page. So, Theory X is a management theory that was developed by psychologist Douglas McGregor in the 1960s. Characteristics of Theory X management style include beliefs that workers dislike their job, that they avoid responsibility, that they must be controlled and driven to do their work. It requires continual supervision. They need to be incentivized by bonuses and other rewards, and they don't have any intrinsic motivation. In short, Theory X managers have a pessimistic view of their people and believe that they require a carrot and stick type motivation to get them to do their jobs. So, going back to RACI and how it ties in, the RACI matrix outlines who is responsible, who's accountable, who's consultant, who's informed. It seems like a logical approach for complex work. It makes clear who does what and when. Unfortunately, beneath the veneer lies a subtle but significant impediment to the very essence of high performing teams: genuine teamwork. I will describe that while the intent is to bring clarity, the RACI instead promotes and offering rewards working as a collection of individuals. This approach erodes the collaborative approach necessary for knowledge work teams such as software development or building big products and services. I just want to remind you that they came up with the acronym RACI, and theirs was R was for responsible. If you ask me, I have my own RACI matrix, and I think the R is for redundant. It overlaps with what good team communication should already cover. The A in theirs is accountable. The A in mine is arbitrary. Role assignments often feel forced or unclear. The C is for consulted. Over here, the C is for confusing. Leads to misunderstandings instead of true clarity. And of course, the I is informed, and over here, it's ineffective. Rarely improves delivery or accountability in practice. So for me, it's redundant, arbitrary, confusing, and ineffective. But, but, I can't just go there. So let's talk about what happens. In my multi-decade experience working with dozens of companies and hundreds of teams, the actual usage of RACI varies greatly from its intent. And I can tell you right now, I've seen everybody try. The allure of RACI lies in simplicity. By assigning specific role to each person for each task, it promises to eliminate all ambiguity and streamline workflows. However, the very act of rigid categorization creates an illusion of clarity, masking a reality of collaborative work. If projects, in many projects, work rarely neatly fits into a predefined box. The best solutions emerge from cross-pollination of ideas, the collective troubleshooting of issues, and shared understanding of strategy and goals. I think it's a quote from the Agile Manifesto. The best architectures, requirements, and designs emerge from self-organizing teams. There you go. That's from the principles behind the manifesto. Yes. So when individuals are directed to work in their respective R, A, C, or I box, the natural desire to help others, to reach out, to brainstorm, offer support beyond the defined role, it all evaporates. It all goes away. You start hearing terms like stay in your lane, and that becomes a way of survival. And it's sad because I hear so many really good organizations using the stay in your lane mentality, and that just puzzles me. The matrix was intended to clarify. It can actually now ironically obscure the value of self-organization and shared problem solving. We need to fix that. When things go sideways or deadlines become unreachable, the RACI is often consulted to determine who is the blame, who is responsible for all this mess, and they become the primary person with the finger pointed at them, right? It becomes the finger pointing tool. The culture of blame emerges. But you know what? That's not even the worst effect it can have. The emphasis on individual accountability within the RACI erodes team ownership. An over-reliance on individual accountability can lead to a mindset where success and failure are linked to specific individuals. This discourages the collective responsibility needed for truly effective teams. When a project hits a snag, it's the accountable person who's expected to fix it rather than a team-wide effort to understand and resolve the issues. The consultant role becomes a bureaucratic bottleneck, requiring formal engagement even when a quick informal discussion should be sufficient. This can slow down decision making and create unnecessary layers of approvals and delay. Similarly, the informed role can lead to teams pushing volumes of information rather than actively seeking discussion and feedback, which generates a shared understanding. The risk of misunderstood information is very, very high. True teamwork thrives on the understanding that team rises and falls together. The mantra I teach teams most often is we succeed as one or we fail as one. The RACI just totally shatters that perspective. The hero culture begins to emerge, roles silos, and if they don't already exist in your organization, they'll even form. Another concern with RACI is the potential to reduce creativity and innovation. When roles and responsibilities are rigidly defined, team members are less likely to step outside of their assigned boundaries, even if they have the skills or knowledge that could benefit the situation. The mindset becomes, nope, look at my RACI card, that's not my responsibility, limiting the team's agility, adaptability, and effectiveness. Innovation often results from unexpected connections and the willingness of people to contribute beyond their assigned role, beyond what they normally do. By creating silos of responsibility and accountability, that discourages cross-functional collaboration and it disables creativity. It's the creativity which results in breakthrough for figuring out new ways to solve problems or innovate products. A rigid assignment of responsibilities also erodes trust and psychological safety for high-performing teams. When you measure people based on their performance within their defined roles, it can create competition rather than teamwork. Team members may hesitate to ask for help or admit they made a mistake. They fear appearing incompetent within their assigned area of responsibility. This can lead to a culture where individuals work in isolation. Walls go up rather than collaboration and cross-learning. True teamwork grows in an environment of trust, where it's okay to be vulnerable, okay to fail, it's okay to make a mistake. Team members feel safe to take risks and contribute their diverse perspectives without fear of judgment or attribution. Or retribution. Sorry, wrong word. The laser focus on individual roles in RACI can work against the creation of growth in this type of environment. So you're probably wondering, is there something I can do that's different that still solves this problem? While usage of RACI attempts to bring order, the emergent and complex nature of building products and services requires a more adaptive and collaborative approach. Any kind of development, product development is a team sport, not an individual sport. In contrast to the Theory X environment that we described earlier, there's a Theory Y. Theory Y is a competing management style. It's characterized by the beliefs that workers should be involved in the decision making, are self-motivated, take ownership of their work, find fulfillment and enjoyment in their work, and have the organization's best interest at heart. Instead of viewing workers as needing to be driven to work, the belief that workers are trustworthy and self-motivated greatly changes the landscape. It changes the way things flow. Instead of rigidly defining individual responsibilities for every activity, management encourages a culture of shared ownership. They develop an environment where teams collectively feel responsible for outcomes instead of working groups. We succeed or fail as one. Approaches that encourage cross-functional teams, open communication, and collective goals can be far more effective than creating genuine teamwork. And genuine teams work together. They're a group of people who trust one another, and they have a working agreement in place of how they're going to behave. It's a common artifact that emerges in Theory Y environment, the team working agreement. It's an output. A team working agreement is a co-created document that outlines the team's shared values, norms, and guidelines for how they're going to work together effectively. It typically covers aspects like communication styles, meeting protocols, decision-making processes, and how the team will handle conflict. The goal is to create a transparent, respectful, and productive environment that promotes team health. While on the surface it might seem like a RACI is actually quite different, this is not an artifact that's imposed on a team. It's not a management person telling the people, this is how you will work. It's the team deciding how we want to work together. People are not held accountable by management. The team holds each other accountable to the agreement. They refine the agreement if it proves to not be as effective as they hoped it would. A RACI comes from a mindset of Theory X. People need to be told what to do and held accountable for what they're told. Team working agreements arise from being trusted to know how to do, from teams being trusted how to do their job and find motivation to do their job well. It's very theory Y approach to management. It's exactly what the team needs. So while RACI is an important to assigning responsibilities, its focus on individual roles can undermine the very teamwork that is essential for its success. By creating the illusion of clarity, detracting from shared ownership, and inhibiting innovation and trust, RACI creates silos and results in working as a collection of individuals instead of working together as a team. You have working groups instead of teams. That's what it boils down to. Leaders need to evaluate whether the perceived benefits of a rigid RACI outweigh the potential to inhibit the collaborative spirit that enables high-performing teams. What I'm saying is it's time for you to move beyond Theory X approach. It's time for us to bury it. It's time for us to embrace Theory Y approaches that unlock true team potential and ultimately effectiveness. We need to start to favor trust over accountability. A famous quote said, "People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care." This is one of those times where we let the team know how much we care so that they can be effective at doing their job. That's going to do it. I hope you enjoyed this longer episode. If you have a topic you want us to discuss, learn more at AgileDad.com. We'd love to hear from you. And I'd love to hear your comments about RACI in your organization. And as always, I encourage you to stay healthy, stay well, and stay agile, my friends. Until next time, do take care.